or even three cranky old men living under the same roof. It's very interesting, and it's another story for another day. So we've all heard it, right? Curiosity killed the cat. But do you know where it comes from? Okay, originally, its earliest written form was care will kill a cat. Care will kill a cat, and it's from a 1598 play, Every Man Has His Humor. And the word care here was meant worry, obsessive worry, overly concerned about other people. And, it kind of makes sense if you think about it because, we've heard the phrase worried to death. How did that person die? Well, they just worried themselves to death. Obsessive worry and stress and concern can have some very negative effects in our lives. So, whether or not that was the intended meaning way back in 1598, it's kind of interesting to think that, they may have had something there. But over the years, however, this proverb did evolve into its current form, curiosity killed the cat. And its usual meaning is to warn of dangers of unnecessary exploration or investigation. And it implies that being curious can sometimes lead to danger or misfortune. And there's some truth in those sayings. I mean, again, another saying we've heard is what? Fools rush in where angels fear to tread. Right? So there is a little truth there. At the same time, I'm wondering if sometimes we've taken this curiosity will kill the cat just a little too far. If we've taken it too literally and we've used it as an excuse to remain comfortable and to not try anything and not to even think about anything new. Because if we think about stuff new, if we think about things like that, we go to that place I call what if world. Now, some of you might remember the shadow side of what if world from previous talks in the past. What if world, the shadow side of it, is that place we go to when we're faced with challenges or stagnation in our lives, and then we start to tell ourselves stories about what that means. Or we don't really have all the evidence, but we start thinking, what if? What if? And usually those what if stories are pretty negative. Here are a couple of examples. Okay, Danny, so I've been stressed out lately and not focused, and you have recommended meditation. You've recommended meditation as a possible practice to calm my mind a bit, to help me be in the moment, to help me deal with life. Sounds kind of interesting, but I've never really done meditation, and it doesn't sound too Christian. And, I've read somewhere that, if you get too far into meditation, that it leads you away from spiritual truth, and it can actually open us up to malevolent spirits and those influences, and what if I try this? And that is what happens to me. Yeah, thanks, but no thanks. I don't think so. You know what they say? Curiosity killed the cat. Or, yeah, I know our mission, our vision statements are very supportive of inclusivity and diversity. They're even spelled out in our mission and vision statements. But I'm not so sure about hanging that rainbow coexist banner out front, with all the colors and all those different religious symbols. I mean, you do know where we are, right? You do know that people can open carry here without a permit. And I'm pretty sure folks around here, if they're familiar with Unity at all, they kind of know that we're not, we're kind of spiritually out there for some folks. And so, yeah, what if some religious zealot sees that banner hanging out front and they just decide to come to church one Sunday while carrying? Yeah, it's a nice thought. And yeah, we may reach out to some people that way and connect with some people, but don't know if we want to go that far. I think it's best if we just lay low. Okay. I understand some hesitancy there. I understand the hesitancy of trying a new spiritual practice if you don't know much about it, and especially if you've heard that it can lead to some really negative and possibly eternal negative consequences for your life. Oh, and I am quite aware of the challenges of being a somewhat liberal spiritual community in Hall County, Georgia. A community that welcomes everyone, and while standing in our own truth teachings and unity, we still respect the truths found in other religions. And that can be kind of tough in an area where probably every other spiritual community around us is not on that page. And a lot of them probably aren't even in the same book as us. And that's okay. Because remember again, we respect everyone's right to choose their path, whatever it may be. Still, I believe there is a difference between exercising due caution and just not doing anything at all simply because we're afraid of what might happen, which usually doesn't happen, by the way. Still, most of us tend to avoid the unknown, don't we? The unknown is scary. We don't know what's out there. It's why it's called the unknown. It's chaotic. We prefer our routines. We prefer the comfortable, the predictable. In fact, Science of Mind minister Reverend Dr. Ramon Anderson says that many religions today could be likened to creatures of habit, refusing to explore the mysteries of their faith, refusing to explore the what-if questions. Yet he reminds us that that is exactly the call of a mystic, to explore the questions of their faith, to ask what if. So when it comes to asking questions like these, and when it comes to curiosity, I'm kind of with Galileo. You might remember he was quoted as saying, "I do not feel obliged to believe that the same God who has endowed us with sense, reason, and intellect has intended us to forego their use." So how do we start using that? How do we tap into that? I believe we start by practicing what I call a holy curiosity. Now, in unity, we might compare a holy curiosity with what we call the power of imagination. And for those who may not be familiar, Unity's co-founder, Charles Fillmore, developed what he called the 12 powers of man. And what I call the 12 powers of humanity, because the powers aren't limited to men, and I think it's time for an update. Can I get an amen? To be fair to Charles, he did right for his time, but, we can question some things. Short definition of the 12 powers is they are 12 expressions of the divine power inherent in each of us. We all have these powers. They're in us, they express through us and as us. And imagination is just one of those powers. And again, we all have these abilities, whether we recognize them or not. And most of the time, we are expressing these powers or using them, and we don't even realize it. Imagination is the power to visualize, conceptualize, and to think outside of the box. In the Revealing Word, another Unity publication, we read, imagination is the power to shape and form thought. Fillmore also taught that what a human being thinks or pictures and imagines in their mind will eventually manifest in their bodies somehow. What do we say in Unity? Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. Side note, held in mind. Okay, I'm talking about focus here. And the reason I point that out is, not every random thought that pops into your mind is going to manifest in your life. That's what I believe. And I know not everybody believes that, and that's okay. Because you know what, folks? If every random thought that popped into my mind manifested in the outer world, I would be in a lot of trouble. Some of you are laughing and smiling because you know you would be too. Imagination. Here's another fun fact. Neuroscientist Dr. Aaron Newberg believes that part of what makes human beings unique is the extraordinary impermanence of our thoughts, our ideas. And that's reflected in what we call our brain's neuroplasticity. Now, some of you who were here last week might remember I said we can rewire our brains. That's what this is. And I believe that we can reinvent ourselves. That includes our spirituality. And developing our power of imagination is just one way of doing that. So how do we get started? We can look at some adults in the world, some famous scientists and artists, and we can see amazing adult examples of the power of imagination at work with these inventions and artwork and technology. But if you really want to see the power of imagination in its purest, most unadulterated, rawest form, look at kids at play. Watch children play. Blankets become forts, pools become oceans ready to explore. Bath towels become capes for superheroes. With kids, anything is possible. Do you remember being a kid? Do you remember how your mud pies were like culinary masterpieces? And sometimes we ate them? Oh my gosh. Do you watch kids at play today and do you kind of remember and go back? And do you ever think when you look at kids at play, do you ever wonder, what the heck happened to me? What happened to my power of imagination? Now, of course, some of us are going to sit back and say, well, we had to grow up, don't you know? You can't live in your imagination forever. Well, no, you can't. Not forever, but I think it would help if we could spend a little more time with our imagination from time to time. It could help us reimagine our lives. It could help us reinvent our lives. It could help us imagine a better spiritual community and a better world. So why not start developing our power of imagination simply by asking what-if questions? What if? What if? And then rather than focusing on what could go wrong, focus on what could go right. Or as poet Aaron Hansen once said, rather than ask, but what if I fall? Ask, but what if I fly? Not what if I fall, but what if I fly? And let's not discount the power of healthy daydreaming as a way of activating our power of imagination. Folks, there's a ton of stuff going on in the world, right? We've had the fires in Hawaii. We had the Moroccan earthquakes. What was it? Over 10 or 11,000 people gone in Libya due to floods and dams breaking. It is insane. I don't even have to tell you what's going on in the United States with all the divisions we have going on. On top of that, we got our own stuff, don't we? We've got our own stuff going on in our lives. And, we've got great stuff going on in our lives, and we've got challenges going on. So it's easy to see with all of that mental stimulation going on, how it's easy for us to become overwhelmed. So with all that going on, why not just check out sometimes? Check out. Go outside and sit and look up at the sky. Do you remember looking at the clouds going by and pretending what the clouds looked like? And, oh, there's a rabbit, there's a bird. Why not do that? Imagine. What if? Clear your mind for a bit. Now, I'm not discounting the power of prayer or meditation or reading or conversation as a way of, starting up our power of imagination and development. No, those are great. But I also think sometimes just sitting outside on the porch or wherever you want to sit with your favorite beverage, whatever it may be, and just disconnecting without a specific goal in mind is just as valuable a spiritual practice as anything else we can do. Of course, you might be sitting there too thinking, I have not done that in so long, Danny. I don't even know if I do have a power of imagination. First of all, you do. And if you're worried about how to activate it and you can't really seem to get that going, we all know a few dreamers in our lives, right? Those people that we think may be a little out there. We may not be on the same page as them with their worldview and their visions, but those are the people I want you to talk to. The artists, the free thinkers, the people who aren't attached really to specific outcomes. Go talk to them. You know them. Invite them out for a beverage and talk and just ask them what if. And then use those conversations as a launching pad for kickstarting your own power of imagination. Ask what if about your own life. And not just about your own life, but about your spiritual communities, wherever they may be, and about your world. Just a word of caution here. Sometimes when we do that, when we start doing that, we're going to be tempted to go back to the shadow side of what if, right? We have this really great vision. You think, oh, man, I can't do that or this or because of this or that. Let that go. Acknowledge it because there will be challenges. Acknowledge it. Just don't let those challenges hold you back from trying. If you try it, it doesn't work, okay, I'm sorry. Try something else. Try it again, tweak it, whatever it may be. Don't let it hold you back from taking healthy and necessary risk with your life. I'm going to close today with just a few more words about our opening proverb, curiosity killed the cat. Do you know that's not the end of the story? December 23rd, 1912, a variation of this proverb was printed, and it read, "Curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back." Some of you have heard that, right? Curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. Isn't that great? Yeah, the addition of this phrase tells me that the risk of curiosity is worth it because it leads to resurrection because of the satisfaction of knowing. Reverend Dr. Anderson compares mystics to this curious cat, willing to die spiritually again and again as they explore the mysteries of their faith, asking those what-if questions, only to rise again and again. And I'd like to think we rise perhaps a bit wiser and a bit more enlightened each time. So the lesson for today, no matter what challenges you face in life, don't be afraid to use your holy curiosity. Don't be afraid to use your power of imagination to ask, what if? And then act on what you discern. And if it doesn't work, okay, try something else. After all, what is the best that can happen? Or, as Patrick Overton reminds us, when you come to the edge of all the light you have and you must take a step into the darkness of the unknown, believe that one of two things will happen. Either there will be something solid for you to stand on, or you will be taught to fly. What if I call? Oh, darling. But what if you fly? And so it is.